Right, so I thought that I had created a somewhat clever workflow for recording guitars that I was going to later reamp, and the workflow was that I would open a stereo track, and the left channel would be the scratch microphone track on the cabinet, so you would have the mic signal coming through. And on the right channel of that stereo track, I would have the DI of the guitar performance. Basically, I was doing it on one stereo track in the DAW rather than having two separate mono tracks because I didn't like group editing. I didn't like the clutter in the arrange window. I liked having both things stuck in one. It was just few faders would slide around and few tracks, and it was just easier to manage. Here's Cubase. Here is a stereo. Here's a stereo wave file. You know, the left channel up on top. That's the sound of the amp that we're not going to keep, but that's for monitoring in the project while we do our punch-ins, edits, yada, yada, yada. And the bottom is the right channel. That is the DI channel, the DI recording. And the way I manage this is... Okay, wrong button. The way I manage this is... I have an instance of Guitar Rig 5. Remember Guitar Rig 5? When the amp simulation revolution hit, Guitar Rig 3 or 4, I can't remember. I think Guitar Rig 3 was the one that I had, and it was like revolutionary. It's like, you mean I just plug straight into the computer and there's amp sounds? I don't have to be loud. I got over that after a while. But a legacy from that time is that I discovered this utility in it. This is the channel split crossfader that comes in Guitar Rig. It's usually in weird effecty or amp. You can have two different kinds of amps open and you can blend them, or you can blend an effect signal and a dry signal. I'm like an hour into like trying to make a 10-minute video. Bye. This is a nice little utility, right? So you think. I'll tell you why it's not. So what you do is you activate the left and the right inputs on this plugin. You set this stereo input left-right split, and so now whatever you pan this to, if I hit play, all the way to the left, that's the all the way to the left, that's the amp sound. And there's our DI. Interestingly enough, I also use this I would record two microphones on a cabinet and blend them with this, because doing that on a cheap little Behringer mixer, I don't care what Glenn Fricker or Ulrich Wild tells you, they're lying. So what would happen is, I'm not a big guitar editing guy. I don't do time alignment stuff. My edits are generally just crossfading in any punch-ins I might do to tighten things up. If there's a mistake, I like to record as much of the track as I can in one go, and then just go back and fix mistakes with punch-ins. So I blend my punch-ins, and naturally I would pan it all the way over here to the DI only, and I would route that channel out to one of the extra line outs on my interface and out through the radio reamp box into an amp and mics. So this is great. Everything was all well and good, so I thought, until this winter when I got the Boogie Mark V, and my pal and I decided, hey, let's see if we can get the thing to sound like the Black Album. So I recorded a few like slow metal riffs that actually are going to be in a riff dump soon. I'm kind of making a song with these sort of derivative Enter Sandman riffs I came up with that were pretty funny. And I started reamping, and we were trying different mics, different speakers, different settings on the Mark V. Using the Mark IV, using the Mark IIc Plus setting, yada yada yada. And it seemed like no matter what I did, everything sounded really nasal and weird, and you're not getting that deep boogie tone. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I was reamping one of my original songs, The Devil's Twink, with the Randall and the boogie mixed, and it was like, no matter what I did, no matter what I EQ'd, no matter what kind of room convolution verb that I added, no matter what I did, it just had this thin nasal, almost like you had blended it with a half-cocked wah-wah pedal on another channel. It was really weird. It was really frustrating. And I finally realized that, like, hey, something made me realize, like, it only sounds like that when I'm reamping. It doesn't sound like that when I'm recording a fresh guitar track directly out of the guitar. So obviously there's something in my signal chain, and after a bunch of troubleshooting, I realized that it was this freaking crossfader, and I just want to show you right now. I'll show you what it does. So, look at our spectrometer. Look at that EQ curve. Look how after 500 hertz, it just drops off into nothing. But look what happens if I turn off the Guitar Rig crossfader. Oh my god, it's all back. Everything from the mid-range on up through the high is back. Everything up through like 7K. We've got a signal. I'll turn it back on so you can watch that drop. And it's on. An avalanche of tone. I'll turn it back on. And back off. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's off right now. Turn it back on. Inexplicable. So it's like Native Instruments. What's going on, big guy? What's going on? What are you doing? What are you doing here? This is supposed to be this crossfader is not supposed to be imitating some analog piece of gear. It's not supposed to be doing some kind of transistor coloration or tube saturation or tape this or that or anything. It's supposed to just be a utility. It's supposed to be a blend between two different rigs. Now, if you're going to tell me Native Instruments that this is some kind of issue of taste in which you want it to do that roll off of basically all useful frequencies. What piece of gear is it emulating? If you had a piece of gear in your studio that did that, you would throw it. You wouldn't use it. Maybe you would you even use it on a kick drum? I don't know. You still want like that flap attack on a kick drum a little bit, don't you? I don't know what you would use this for. Needless to say, this is like the last piece of Native Instruments gear that I've been using in my studio, and now it's just gone. Like, that's it. I don't know what that is. I used to love their stuff. I guess that was before I got deeper into other things involving pro audio and DAWs and stuff, and it was just such a disappointment. I took that thing out of the chain. I don't reamp that way anymore. I'm probably not even going to record DIs this way anymore. I'm probably just going to do the clutter with the having two separate tracks rather than one stereo track, because now the other thing is, like, I don't trust any kind of, multi-panner utility to do that anymore. How can you trust after seeing that? I guess I'll show it again. Like, I don't like how can you ever trust a multi-panner again? Let's have a look. I mean, I'll hit play. That's what Guitar Rig is doing to the DI. And that's what the Guitar Rig turned off. I mean, just look at that. It speaks for itself. The difference is much more subtle on the amp sound. I don't know, it's strange. The effect is really I really only hear it on DI tracks, hear it. You can see it. Whoops. Pardon me. I have the stereo output set to mono so that the panning doesn't. It would be really annoying if this stuff was actually panning around on your end. So the output is mono so that when I pan this back and forth, it stays in the center. That's with it on, and that's with it off. That's with it off, and that's with it on. It's very odd. It's odd that I don't really hear or see a difference. Well, I guess I hear it a little bit. I don't see it so much on the distorted guitar. Well, so Lord knows what other problems that's been hiding. I've been using that crossfader. I just never use that crossfader again. I will never use that crossfader again. So, I don't know. Good night, Native Instruments. It's been a nice run. They've basically been outpaced by everybody else in the industry anyway. Like, if there's two dead memes in the plugin game, it's Waves and Native Instruments. I don't use either.